The mid-size SUV market is a segment that's been growing in popularity over the last 20 years or so, and it's easy to see why. For growing families, the extra space afforded to it makes more sense than a mid-size family hatchback. Plus, the rugged nature of the car means it feels a lot safer, not to mention that king of the road driving position. One case in point is this, the Hyundai Tucson, this one in its third generation, and despite its rugged demeanor, this is a car that has been designed specifically for the road. However, it does have some special off-roading technology, meaning that should you want to go a little bit further off the beaten track, it will take you further than some of its main rivals. But if you are in the market for a Hyundai Tucson, what are the key things that you should be looking out for, especially when you consider this is one of the most competitive markets out there at the moment. But in such a competitive market, how does the Hyundai Tucson fare, and what should you be looking out for when buying a used example? Well, in today's video, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at. The Hyundai Tucson gained a popular following when its third generation came out in 2015. Styling wise, it had a sharp look to it. It didn't have the questionable design we've come to expect from some of its predecessors. It felt more tailored to the European market with more elegant lines and modern features like the slim headlamps and taillights. At the front, it had this large imposing grille and daytime running lights, which helped sharpen up the design and give it a more premium feel. Then to finish it off, there were these plastic protective elements that showed that it was a 4x4 that would be capable of tackling more than just a dirt track. There was a time when the interior build quality of cars coming out of Korea left a lot to be desired. The ergonomics were a little bit all over the place, and the build quality wasn't even close to the worst of what Europe was offering. But that's all changed, and part of it was down to this, the third generation Hyundai Tucson. The layout is logical and all the buttons have a solid weighty feel to them. And while the cabin materials do feel more premium, they're still not quite up there with the very best in class. There's plenty of adjustment for the seat and steering wheel. So you've got a ratchet on the seat and the steering wheel moves in and out as well as up and down. So you'll have no problems getting the perfect driving position. Plus the seats are also extremely comfortable. So whether you're doing a short trip to the shops or a longer trip down the motorway, you'll end the journey feeling refreshed and comfortable. Now, as I mentioned, all the controls and buttons are well located and logically laid out. But you will have to spend a little bit of time getting used to what they do, because even base spec models are well equipped. For example, down here we've got the heated seats for the driver and front passenger put in with the climate control. Further up, you've got your radio settings. On higher spec models, that's a touchscreen infotainment system. And then on the steering wheel, you've got the controls for your phone, radio and cruise control as well. Plus down here, you've got your off-road settings too. So it's worth acclimatizing and getting used to it before you consider your purchase. Now, on models that have a touchscreen infotainment system, it's one of the better ones in its class. It's straightforward to use, the graphics are clean and legible, and it's pretty quick too. Now, the main reason that customers are opting for a mid-size SUV is the space that's on offer, and anyone who gets into the Tucson will not be disappointed. Whether you're the driver or the front seat passenger, you'll have plenty of headroom, and obviously the seats are adjustable too. And then as you move further back, there's room for 3 there as well. The only thing we would say, anyone who sat in that middle seat will have to contend with a transmission tunnel that runs down the middle of the car, but realistically, it's not as bad as some of its rivals. Also, as you can see here, there are a couple of Isofix child seat mounts too on the outermost seats in the rear. Then as you move into the boot, there's 513 litres of space on offer, which can be expanded to 1,503 litres when you fold down those split fold rear seats. Obviously, the one thing you need to contend with a mid-size SUV is that high load lip, but realistically, it's no more difficult than some of its main rivals. Now onto the business of trims, and this part is pretty easy to get to grips with. Whichever version you opt for, you'll be getting some pretty decent levels of equipment. Even if you opt for the entry level S version, which later became S Connect, you'll get air conditioning, daytime running lights, Bluetooth connectivity and DAB radio, which on later versions added a touchscreen infotainment system which included satellite navigation. SE trim, which is the one that we would recommend, adds climate control, heated seats at the front and parking sensors at the rear. When the Tucson was facelifted in 2018, SE was dropped and the SE Nav became the second option in the lineup, which includes everything from the SE, but as you'd expect, would add navigation, as the name suggests. At the top of the tree is Premium, which includes more luxuries like heated rear seats and all-round parking sensors. The engine lineup was pretty straightforward. From launch, there was either a 1.6 litre petrol with 133 brake horsepower or a turbocharged 174 brake horsepower. The latter is going to be expensive to run, with an average fuel economy of around 37 miles per gallon. So if you want petrol, we'd opt for the naturally aspirated version, which should return something in the region of the mid-40s. But if diesel is your powertrain of choice, then there's a 113 brake horsepower, 1.7 litre, which is available as a manual or automatic, or there's a couple of 2 litre diesels with either 134 brake horsepower or 181 brake horsepower. Economy-wise, the most powerful diesels will be thirsty and average around 47-48 miles per gallon. The autos are going to be considerably less, probably somewhere in the region of about 43-44. The two lower powered diesels though are much better, averaging around 60 miles per gallon. When it was facelifted in 2018, the two least powerful diesels were removed from the range, instead replaced with a couple of 1.6 litre units. The more powerful one ended up with mild hybrid technology. Now the engines are smooth but not quite as refined as the competition. However, it is worth stretching to the newer diesels or turbocharged petrol if you prefer more spirited driving. While the looks and build quality make this a viable option to some of the more established European competition, the driving mannerisms are just still a little short. The steering doesn't really give too much information about what the front wheels are actually doing, but to be fair, that's about it. Body lean, something which normally afflicts taller vehicles, is well controlled and there's plenty of grip too, especially with the four-wheel drive. The fact that the Tucson doesn't pitch or roll is a result of a somewhat firm suspension, which does make it a little bumpy over potholes and uneven road surfaces, especially if you opt for the range-topping 19-inch alloy wheels, which we'd definitely avoid despite its obvious aesthetic advantages. So you've walked around the Tucson, you like the looks, you like the way interior feels, and taking it for a test drive, and you're happy and ready to sign on the dotted line. But before you do, there are a couple of things that are worth checking out before you shake hands. According to our data, the most expensive issue that we've noticed is the electric handbrake, which will cost around £2,206 to replace. Now this has come in later models. Then there's the ABS wheel speed sensor, which costs £1,685. And finally, the exhaust temperature sensor, which will cost around £933. So to sum up, the third generation Tucson was one of Hyundai's best-selling cars across Europe, and it's easy to see why. It's solidly built, it's got a good range of engines and well equipped. But for most families, the most important thing is that it's affordable, not only to buy, but to run too. And when all of those elements are put together, it makes for quite the compelling proposition. Which engine would we go for? Well, we'd recommend one of the diesels or the turbocharged petrol engine, as they're the most rounded and better suited for day-to-day life. And as for spec, we'd suggest the SE, which later went on to become the SE Connect, as it'll have all the luxuries that you could possibly want. Thanks for watching this used car review of the third generation Hyundai Tucson. We hope you found it useful. If you did, please do drop us a like. And while you're here, if you want to see more videos like this, then hit that subscribe button, clicking the bell icon so that you're notified every time we upload a new video.